White, Geishikai Kapiniskis, Tansei, Tanishi, Bonjour, Oki, Bonjour, Hola, hello, and welcome. Welcome to the full virtual workshop series. If I haven't said hello in a way that speaks to your heart, mind, or soul, please feel free to say hello in the chat and share where you're joining from. We're so grateful that you are here. We have about 400 people coming in and more. Just to let you know that over 3,200 people signed up for this workshop. That is a record. So there are thousands of you who want to join in this space, and we are grateful for each and every one of you. We have a packed lineup for you with this opening workshop series. So I'm going to get on and share, and lovely to see people sharing in the chat. So we're in free virtual workshop series for the fall 2025. Time is moving an incredible pace. It's September the 23rd, and we are learning from the land, Indigenous teachings and resources. And we have two incredible speakers for you today, and both of them incredible educators and authors, but also in this wellness space, which I feel like we all need. I'm joining you from Sinixt territory, the people of the bull trout, which dissects Shequetmakulu, and the land of the Okanagan Silk from the south, and Tanaha at the headlands of the waters that pass through this place. I took this photograph today on my lunchtime walk. The fall light for me is just the way it moves through the trees is so inspiring. And I think the thing that's coming to me in lessons or relations to my care for the Indigenous ways of being in this moment is that we just had a festival of lights and sound called Lunar Fest last weekend. And what I was incredibly heartened to see was the amount of Indigenous representation of artists, both musical and physical artists, and that how much respect was being given by non-Indigenous or settler folk through honouring the Indigenous people of this place through their work, through topics or through acknowledgement and through that's shared space. So I felt really, really honoured and excited to see that. Okay, we're changing it up and just inviting 30 seconds of something I'm going to call the caring corner. I don't know if like you, but every time you open your phone or a screen or anything right now, it's feeling a bit overwhelming. There's a lot of stress, negativity, and difficult things in the world. And whilst we have to face and embrace a lot of the things that are a part of this society and the world that we live in, I wanted to give us just 30 seconds to listen to a piece of music, to think about good feelings, and maybe to let go of some of the things that we don't need in this precise moment to spend time together. So there's some music, and hopefully you'll hear it. We'll see. Maybe or not. Here we go. So you can just breathe or look out of the window. Post something in the chat if that feels good. People have found the react button at the bottom of your screen. That's nice. Just 30 seconds for us. Thanks, everybody. So a massive part of this work, as you know, from both of our organisations, is wanting to uplift and centre Indigenous voices in the outdoor learning movement and land-based learning movement. And so National Day for Truth and Reconciliation is coming up in a week. Otherwise known as Orange Shirt Day in some places. And so we have compiled a list of resources that are Indigenous created, and through our advisors and our Director of Indigenous Learning, Jenna Jasic, who you can see in the background there, who has spearheaded the work within our organisation and beyond. And we just encourage you to engage in whatever way feels authentic to you, but to show up. We also recognise that this work is not just about one day, that the work that we do for Truth and Reconciliation should be year-long, lifelong learning. And so you know probably by now that we have a year-long course called 4 Seasons of Indigenous Learning. In fact, the amazing Lorna, who's here, hosts season 3 of it. You take a season per year, and that one is all about deepening your relationship with Indigenous people as you learn and grow and develop. So each month we come together to listen to an amazing Indigenous speaker with a diverse perspective. And seasons 1 and 2 are online, working your way through either workbooks or learning. And then season 4, which will launch this year, is with Jenna Jasic and Joe Kroner, which will be about reconciliation and how you can take that into the world. So we hope that you will join us. The early bird is open until the end of this month. I have a wonderful co-host joining me today, as always.
Hello, my name's Rachel. I'm the education program coordinator with Take Me Outside, and I'm so happy that you're all joining us here this evening and to kick off this beautiful season of learning together. I'm joining you tonight from Treaty 1 territory, the original lands of the Anishinaabe, the Inahuac, and the Dakota, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. And before we get started with tonight's workshop, I would like to highlight a few Take Me Outside initiatives that are coming up this fall. The first is our outdoor learning certification program that we partnered with the Outdoor Learning School and Store to develop. We have over 1,500 educators from around the world currently participating in this course. And we've recently updated it to incorporate feedback from kind of the first wave of folks that have finished the course. It is a 30-hour asynchronous course, and it's now offered in French as well. So if you're interested in learning more, Jade has popped the link in the chat. You can also feel free to email us with any questions that you might have. The second thing that we'd love to talk about is Take Me Outside Day. This is our annual event that happens every October to celebrate and bring awareness to the importance of outdoor learning. Registration for this event is now live, and we have a full week of virtual activities, speakers, and events that are happening from October 20th to 24th, with Take Me Outside Day being October 22nd. So we really hope to see you there, and you can register for this free event on our website. Back to you, Jade.
Thank you so much. These incredible things. David Suzuki speaking, and there's a chance to move and listen to music, and it's all free. So we're really, really excited um, to see as many of you there as can join. Okay, really quickly, we just want to say hi and see who's here. So I'm launching a poll right now on your screen. There's 2 questions. The first one is, who are you? And the second one is, where are you joining us from? We've kind of focused it in North America, or what some people would call Turtle Island. I was really lucky enough to attend our local school district's Indigenous Education Professional Learning Day recently, and the question there that was asked by one of the speakers was, who is your name rather than what is your name? And I don't know if you've ever heard that concept before, but that really, really spoke to me about who is your name, and it was asking you how to describe yourself. So, who are you? Hopefully, there are many more ways. If you don't see yourself represented in those questions as well, right, you can post it in the chat. There are sort of limited answers, unfortunately. So, I'm going to give it just a couple more seconds. There are nearly 600 of you here. I know that I won't probably have enough time for everyone to answer, but we'll just close that in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll just see what we get and share the results. So we have people from all of the ideas of what we thought an educator might be, both formal and informal, and some people who are not educators, just passionate about learning. So that's very exciting. And people representing across the continent that we're on. And if you're coming from even further afield, please feel free to share. But thank you so much for being here. This work matters, and every single one of you matter, and we are so grateful that you're here. And in that, because you do matter more than just a sort of tick box or a name or a sign up, we wonder if you could just share one thing in the chat that that you care about deeply in this moment, or as you're going into fall in whatever world you're inhabiting, and maybe or something you're grateful for. Feel free to just share in the chat real quick, so we can just get a little waterfall of positivity going as we move through this. Yeah, there's a lot of heaviness in the world, and this always feels like a beautiful place. Ah, that's so
Oh
nice.
my gosh.
Yeah, that's a waterfall. Woo! Okay, while the waterfall's coming in, I'm just going to really quickly, it's getting out of hand now because we have over 100 outdoor learning partners. And I'm just going to click through them, but you can find all of these people on our website. And some of them have funding, and some of them are specific to place, and some of them are specific to topic or subject. But all of these people care about this work. They support Indigenous learning, they support outdoor learning, and we are so grateful for each and every one of them for supporting us. But we are here to hear two fantastic people learning from the land, Indigenous teaching and resources. And to kick us off, we have the amazing Lorna Purcell, who's a member of the Hackshaw First Nation. You do so many things, Lorna. You're an educator, you teach yoga and mindfulness, you teach youth, and you support your community through Rise Up Indigenous Wellness in terms of hosting workshops and elder gatherings and so many beautiful things. You've published two books, Heartbeat of the Earth and Whispers of the Earth. And as a human, I find you to be one of the most generous of spirit people that I've ever encountered in these spaces for the way that you support others to learn better and do better. So I'm really grateful that you're here. I'm going to stop sharing that and pass it over to you, and you can just let me know if you want the slideshow up immediately.
In a couple of moments. Could Jade for that beautiful introduction, and Mike, to everybody attending today and taking time out of your day to join us for some mindfulness and some discussion. I really feel honored. Like, I'm here on Secwepemcúlecw, the territory where our nonprofit Rise Up is, and a neighbor to my home territory, the St'át'imc Nation. And I'm honored for the work that we do with CBean and Take Me Outside in the outdoor learning store, because we work with lots of different partners and organizations. But when we think about truth and reconciliation, yours is an organization that's doing it right, that's connecting with people in a good way, that's making it meaningful and relevant, and not an add-on, but something that's built right into things. So I really feel honored to be part of that. And I want to, discuss a little bit about ways that there's a lot of educators that are here today, ways that Indigenous mindfulness and land-based education are so strongly linked. And I guess just starting from the place that oftentimes right now, modern wellness trends are simply just repackaged Indigenous wisdom. So what we're thinking of is something that's new and current, is our traditional wisdom. And when we talk about reconciliation, as we're easing into our Truth and Reconciliation Day, mindfulness can be deeply connected to that. Through when we think about healing our hurts and cultivating inner and outer peace, mindfulness plays such an important role in things. So so I wanted to share a little bit about that, and some of the teachings and activities that I'll share in these next 15 minutes are in both Whispers of the Earth and Heartbeat of the Earth. They're woven throughout. So maybe if we could start the slideshow, please, Jade. Go next slide. So Indigenous mindfulness, when we often don't hear that as a term, but it's made up of different facets. So there's our connection to nature. So we have a deep spiritual bond to the land. And when we are actively doing our practices, like gathering plants, tending the earth, being caregivers to the land, and engaging in ceremonies that honor the environment, those are part of our mindfulness. It's a holistic approach. So it really integrates the four parts of self: the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. When we're being mindfully aware in our outdoor teachings and in our work with children, we're engaging all of those parts. And our traditional ways are through practices like meditation and prayer, connecting with nature, and all that other work that we do to keep ourselves balanced and deeply connected to all those aspects of ourselves. So I'm going to talk a little bit further about that, around ways that we can engage that. Then there's our cultural practices. Mindfulness is incorporated and cultivated through our ceremonies and traditions. And sometimes for non-Indigenous educators, that's a challenging term, the idea of ceremony, or the idea of how to incorporate some of the traditions in a way that is both mindful and doing it in a careful kind of way. And so I just have a few words after too around ways that you can bring in practices of ceremony that are relevant to the work you're doing with young people. And then intergenerational knowledge, of course, plays a big role in Indigenous mindfulness, because elders pass along our mindfulness teachings. And of course, we're an oral culture and an oral tradition. So those teachings are passed through our stories and ways of being and ways of knowing. So for example, that idea, when we take care of the earth takes care of us. We take only what we need, we use everything we take. All of those would be examples of that intergenerational knowledge that has that aspect of being mindfully aware on the earth. Next slide. So you might think, why Indigenous mindfulness? Like, it's besides that idea of reconciliation and working together as a community, what are some of the benefits that we can bring out of this? And our mindfulness practices are holistic, and sometimes we're seen as an enhancement and not fully legitimized in mainstream. So it's like about a little bit about shifting that thought around it, like where I started, that Indigenous mindfulness practices are what mindfulness is now. It's just repackaged under a different name. So connecting children and youth to the land through culture fosters that connection to Indigenous ways of knowing. So Indigenous or non-Indigenous youth can benefit from building those relationships. And it supports social emotional learning when we're mindfully connecting on the land. So land-based programs for youth demonstrate how nature brings a sense of calm during times of chaos. And I think about this, we do a lot of work around the toxic drug crisis with youth, and ways of using the land to heal and calm and to grieve, and all the ways that our ancestors taught us that. So from even the youngest children, like being able to feel their feelings on the land is a form of mindfulness. And then there's also this important aspect, if Indigenous children, and I think of this, we work a lot with urban Indigenous children who might be disconnected from their home community. If they are disconnected from our stories and teachings, they lose that cultural connection. And this impacts everybody. When our Indigenous people don't have that connection, everyone's affected, because those important beliefs and ways of knowing aren't passed along. So that's a bit of the why. And I just want to share an example of a mindfulness activity that that I often incorporate in the outdoor classroom or working outside. And I'll talk a little bit after about the drum, but I just thought we could all do this together. So we're going to breathe with the drum, and it's a mindfulness practice that involves synchronizing your breath with the rhythm of the drum. And it's in beats of 4, and 4 is a very important number to Indigenous people. Many things come in 4s, seasons and directions and phases of life. So get yourself seated comfortably, and if you can have your feet on the floor or touching the earth, and shrug your shoulders up nice and tight, and maybe roll them down your back a little. And when you feel your body getting a bit more comfortable, I'd invite you, if you're comfortable, to close your eyes. Take a second to notice your breath. Notice if it's rapid or if it's slow. You're going to take an inhale and fully exhale everything out of your lungs. Next, inhale for 4 beats through your nose. Hold and exhale for 4 through your mouth. Another deep inhale. Take an exhale. Extra slow inhale. And let it all out. So just noticing how even just those few breaths with the drum regulated our body and helps to just slow our breathing. So this practice really helps center the mind and body and promotes calmness and focus. And it really aligns our breath with the natural flow of life. So when we think of when my first book, Heartbeat of the Earth, it's that beat of all things that are alive around us and us connecting to the beat and our breath and to life around us. So it's particularly important in our work as working outdoors with people is that connecting to all those things alive around us. So yeah, so the next slide, Jade. So we talk a bit more deeply about it in Seasons of Learning and in season 3 about there's I think we have one entire session just about the drum and ways to incorporate it and how to honor it, because it's important to not just make assumptions, because the drum is sacred to our people. It's made of the plant people and animal people. It's made of hide and made of the wood from the plant people and the hide from the animal people. And then as we play it, we would say the people, like putting it that voice into the drum. So it represents that strong connection. It's circular. So that whole idea of all things being connected and the different 4 parts of self. So because it has such an important role to us, the care for it's very important. My teachings are that if I'm not using the drum, my drum is wrapped and put away gently, that I'm not handling it if I'm mourning or if I'm extremely angry or have other powerful emotions like jealousy very strong or things that are a harmful emotion. I'm not putting that into my drum. And so I care for it. I wouldn't leave it upside down on the ground. It's so one of my friends say you care for it like a baby. It's wrapped, you hold it gently, you're calm when you hold it. It's kind of a nice way to think of it. And so if you're wanting to, and which I think is a lovely practice, incorporate a drum into your mindfulness teachings and outdoors, I would suggest going local. If you're able to have somebody from the local community come in and talk about their drum teachings. In some of our communities around here, we've had workshops where we did drum making with at the school level, and all the protocols were discussed and that went with the drums. And but yeah, and if you're wanting to purchase a drum, purchase locally and make sure to find out the proper protocols. And yeah, and like being able, there's lots of different ideas of ways, games and things where the drum can be incorporated and where it becomes the respect for it and it becomes normalized within the activities. So I just wanted to, before I run short on time, talk a little bit about the role of ceremony too, because when we think about mindfulness, there is that whole sensory awareness part, and then there's the way that we move through life mindfully. So ceremony is that special act or performing things on an occasion, maybe throughout the school year, marks important events, celebrates important moments. So there could be a cultural significance like tied to traditions, beliefs, or customs of a community. And I think about, most schools do Indigenous Peoples Day or Orange Shirt Day, maybe the solstice, some celebrating some of those in an important way. So there's symbolic meanings, and they can involve people, objects, and symbols. So when we think about incorporating it into our outdoor learning, some of the things that that I've often encouraged through my mindfulness work is having a ceremony when you enter the forest. You greet the forest. That can become, it's a ritual, but it's also a ceremony because you're doing it in a mindful way. Or having a tree that you adopt, or when you go to the water, having a way that you mindfully greet the water each time. All of those are just small little examples of ways to bring ceremony in to our outdoor learning. And I just added on the bottom there, appropriation. So being really cautious not to take a ceremony maybe that you've heard of or seen without understanding or knowing if it's appropriate to include. So yeah, some of them can just be people do sunrise ceremonies like personal ones where it's their way of greeting the day each day and giving thanks, or sunset. So yeah, so all of those little ways you can next slide, Jade. Little ways that you can bring ceremony into daily life is, like I mentioned last, you can find a special tree, touch a tree. There's also opportunities for ceremonies, taking mindful breaks. So at the same time every day. So I know I worked with a kindergarten class for a number of years where we'd have a mindful break right after lunch so that they could shift their energy and be ready for more learning. So just fitting that in throughout the day. Ceremony can be celebrating achievements, even the smallest little ones, and having gratitude for some of those things too. So I thought something fun to do and to share. My friends at iSpark made this up from my Whispers of the Earth, and it's just different things. It's a mindfulness bingo. So Jade's going to share a copy of this, and it's different things you can do to connect to the land and be mindful, and try to see in the next week up until Truth and Reconciliation Day if you could fill out a line. So yeah, so that's a little bit about me and a little bit about some thoughts around Indigenous mindfulness. Cooksham.
Cook's Jam. Thank you so much, Lorna. As always, so much giving, and thank you for that breathing. I needed that personally. I hope others enjoyed it. And for people popping questions in, we will have a Q&A at the end here, so stick around. But that was magical. Thank you so much. And yes, I will share that resource in the follow-up email that will come out to you very, very shortly here. And so our second guest today is the wonderful Sarah Ann Tourond, who's a proud Métis and an Anishinaabe storyteller. As a yoga instructor, massage therapist, and advocate for Indigenous healing, you've done an enormous amount of work in community and across different spaces. I know that you've done work with Take Me Outside before, for Take Me Outside Day, and you have written 2 books here. The author, you're award-winning You Are Sacred, and the second book in the series, You Are the Land, which we have available as well, are fantastic and books for young people and for those who read them to younger people as well. So thank you so much for being here, and I'll pass it over to you.
Bijou Ani, Indigenous Sarah Ann, just like she said. So I'd like to share a little bit about why I actually wrote my books, because I find that while we were speaking more about Indigenous lifeways and the Indigenous experience in our school systems, oftentimes the focus is on our trauma as opposed to our cultures and who we are as people, and the joy and the depth of knowledge that we carry as Indigenous people. So for myself as a mother, I had my son in 2020, and I went out looking for books about our culture to share with my son so that we can start integrating our culture into his life from a young age. And when I went looking, all I could find for Indigenous content books were sad. They were all about our sadness. And so I wrote a book called You Are Sacred, and it initially was written just for my son. I wrote a book just for him to read, and the illustrations in my books are of my son. And when I went out and I created this book, I had friends who said, hey, I'd love to have this book, make a few copies. So I self-published, and then eventually Strong Nations, my publisher, picked it up and asked if I'd like to turn the book into a book series on the medicine wheel. And so obviously I accepted that whole full-heartedly, that offer, and have 2 books out in the series, and the other 2 books will be out later. So each of the books focuses on a portion of the medicine wheel. And I try to do so in a way that teaches children, like Lana said, to connect to the land and to find medicine in themselves. So something that I like to share, I'm actually on a reserve right now, working in schools here, sharing yoga and sharing my books and doing workshops with kids. And one of the questions I always ask kids when I read my book is, do you know what the word sacred means? And oftentimes kids, they don't know what sacred means. And so for me, helping children understand their innate sacredness is a really amazing way to carry Indigenous teachings into your classroom. So in Indigenous, if we look at the medicine wheel, right, we have the 4 quadrants of the medicine wheel, and they're not like how we work in colonial society, a hierarchy, they all flow into one another. And so children are teachers to us because they are closest to the spirit world. So they're very sacred. They are, when they're born, they still carry a lot of the language from the spirit world, and we can learn so much from them. And as opposed to seeing ourselves as above them, we can see them as the center, I guess, as we can put it. So in Indigenous culture, we believe in matriarchy. We believe that in our communities that we center women, our mothers, and children. So my books that I have shared, it's to teach children that they are sacred innately, and that if they don't, because a lot of children don't have any source of love or comfort at home, that they can find that in the land. They can find that in connection to the land. And you'll see, as I'm going to share my book, my second book, You Are the Land, in this presentation, you'll see in my books that I illustrated faces onto all of the illustrations, and every part of the all of the sources of nature in my book have little faces on it, because I wanted children to understand that everything on earth is alive and that everything has a spirit, and that we can always find company in the land. And for myself as a child, as an Indigenous child who grew up maybe in a less supportive environment than other children, that for me is how I found connection to my own culture, was connection to the land. So like Lana said in her presentation, connection to land is a really great way to start incorporating reconciliation into your classroom. And for me, I think I hadn't sent an updated bio, but I actually have a nonprofit organization called Nietzsche Club, and it's to help people come back into connection with the earth and with one another, and to move towards reconciliation, because in my honest opinion, we're not there yet. We're not at reconciliation yet. So for me, moving towards reconciliation comes from, if you're a settler or non-Indigenous, is the discomfort that comes with reconciliation, that comes with this work, and sitting in it and working through it, and then also incorporating the resources from the medicine wheel and the land to not ease, but to work through the discomfort, because the only way out is through. So yeah, that's a little bit about my books and why I wrote them, and how you can kind of start to incorporate them after, or incorporate into your classroom. So I'm going to share my book, You Are the Land, and then I'll talk a little bit more about the resources that are in the back of all of my books, which have language resources as well as cultural resources. So this is my book, You Are the Land. It's my second book in the series. You are the land. Take a deep breath and fill your lungs, then release it nice and slow. It's the air beneath eagle's wings, the breeze spreading seeds so flowers grow. Rushing rivers and ocean waves, calm lakes and morning dew. Your tears, your sweat, and most of you are made of water too. Oh, my screen Let's see. There we go. I can't decide where to blur. Oh, there we go. These are available online, and I also did a presentation last year that's on the Take Me Outside YouTube channel that has this book and then a little presentation as well. The sacred medicine of sage helps your body thrive and cleanse. To honor and respect the land, share these lessons with your friends. A spark leaps up from the flames that keeps you warm and cozy. You have a fire inside you too. It turns your cheeks so rosy. Buffalo stampede to earth's rhythm, their hooves pounding as they run. Your heart drums to the same beat, reminding you that we are one. With your feet rooted to the earth, you grow and change for all to see. Your hands, I'm sorry it's blurred. Hopefully we can find, maybe link the reading that I did last year so that you can hear and see the illustrations more clearly. With your feet rooted to the earth, you grow and change for all to see. Your hands are branches reaching high like a wise and strong oak tree. The three sisters support each other when they're planted side by side. They teach you about community, how to come together instead of divide. The harmony of Mother Earth is all around you and within. There is proof inside of you that the wind and rivers are your kin. From sacred sage to buffalo, from the sky to every grain of sand, we are all relations and you are land. So even though you couldn't see some of the illustrations due to the blurring, I do invite you to go to that resource that's already on Take Me Outside. But in these books, there's also resources, cultural resources, so that you can find ways to incorporate these teachings into your classroom without appropriating them. Because I think that that is a big concern for settlers, is how do we incorporate Indigenous lifeways and Indigenous teachings into our classroom without appropriating? And I think it starts with appreciation and making sure that the teachings are coming from an Indigenous voice. So sharing these resources from my book or other authors like Lorna into your classroom is a way to appreciate instead of appropriate. So in my book, you heard me mention the three sisters. That is a way that my ancestors would grow corn, squash, and beans so that they could support one another in their growth. A lovely way to incorporate reconciliation into your classroom could be a garden that shows how that grows, right? Or maybe you do it in the summertime and have that harvest in your classroom and share it as a way and share the process with your students so that they can see how that's all grown. So in my book, I speak towards smudging. Smudging for me is something that I've spoken about a lot as someone who's been in the wellness industry for over 10 years. That is something that I have been made to feel very uncomfortable in spaces when it's used by non-Indigenous people. So a few notes about smudge is this is the teachings that I've received on it is to not purchase it, but to get it as a gift. And if you do get it as a gift from an Indigenous person, honestly, I think the best rule of thumb is to not smudge in your classroom and to not share it unless you have an elder or a knowledge keeper come in. Even myself, as an Indigenous person, I don't share smudge in group settings. It's just not something that I feel comfortable with because there's so many protocols around that medicine on who can receive it and where they're at in their life. If the teachings that I received is that women on their moon time shouldn't be smudging. So it's just a way to safely respect that plant. And the medicine that I encourage people to build a relationship with is actually tobacco. And I speak about tobacco in my first book, You Are Sacred. So tobacco way to share and create a relationship with the land and also to encourage that relationship with children. Having an elder come in and teaching children how to do tobacco ties so that they can go home and give gratitude to maybe their favorite tree in their yard, or on their walk home, having to appreciate maybe the flowers that are growing or the bees that they see or anything like that. For me, I think tobacco is a really beautiful medicine and plant medicine to begin that connection and relationship with the land. So I think that that is about everything that I'd like to say and share about classrooms. I think it would be best, honestly, if we maybe shared more space and time for questions, because I see so many of them flowing in now. So yeah, thank you, Miigwech, for having me, and thank you for putting this together. I really, what Lorna said at the beginning really resonated with me, that this is an organization that's truly incorporating reconciliation and centering it instead of putting it as an afterthought. I think it's really important and amazing what you all do here.
Miigwech, Sarah Ann, thank you so much. It is a beautiful book. And what I loved was how many of these beautiful common themes were woven between what you both were saying and how you interplay together. And that just, that sense of oneness is so appreciated. So thank you for that, because I think we need that as humans. Okay, yes, questions have rolled in. I'll start with you, Lorna. A few different people, and you spoke to it in terms of on the second slide about drums, in terms of getting a drum locally and things like that. But quite a few folks said, is it okay if I use a different kind of drum, either a drum that they like a djembe, or a drum that they have that means something to them? Or could you talk a little bit more about that? Because people are really concerned that they want to do the right thing.
Yeah, so I think like in our season 3, when we have a full lesson around drums and drumming, like we have a chance to sort of unpack that a bit more. When we're using a drum, it's like, say if the drum's being incorporated for traditional Indigenous games, like I'm thinking of things like Stalk the Drum, or Firekeeper, or Deer Cliff Arrow, then my personal thoughts would be that that should be an Indigenous drum, because it's a Indigenous game, and it's like the symbolic nature of the materials of the drum that we're using play an important part in that. It's like a symbolic reminder of our connection to the plants and animals and all earth, all the things around us. Um, Using a drum to breathe with, I think that's very like across all nations in the world, and that like our beat and the drum. So like something like the activity that I shared here, I feel like using any kind of drum for breathing, for something that's not strictly somebody from Turtle Island doing, that any drum symbolizes and connects us together with other people of the world, that beat. So I guess depending on the practice, what you're planning to use it, but I really encourage, like, it's a good way to build relationships with the local community, is by having someone come in, share drum protocols and teachings, and make a school drum or make a program drum and have those teachings. And what a lovely experience for everybody, and also for any Indigenous students in the school to see, oh, we have a hand drum here and we value it, we treat it right. I hope that answers it.
I feel like that was very comprehensive. Thank you. Okay, Sarah Ann, coming to you. So you mentioned briefly there, in your book, you talk about the knowledge and wisdom of the medicine wheel, but being appropriate with it. Could you touch on a little bit what that looks like? Is that instructional in your book, or do you know a little bit about what the difference might be?
Sorry, like how to incorporate without appropriating?
Yes, yes, what that concept looks like,
So I
maybe
think that
even just over.
looks like is that it can be incorporated without it necessarily being named. Does that make sense? So it's acknowledging all 4 parts of self in each of the students. So Alana had in her presentation as well that we all have a body, a mind, a heart, and a spirit. And I find that oftentimes we forget to acknowledge the spirit, especially of children, and also incorporating the 4 different parts of the community that's a part of the medicine wheel. So we have babies, youth, adults, and elders, making sure that all 4 parts of the community are involved in your classroom. Making sure that we, honoring the seasons and the cycles of the land are a great way to incorporate the medicine wheel. We can also maybe begin to touch and speak towards the different medicines, because it also depends on the region you're in, right? Because the medicine wheel is different for each nation. So for me, I speak towards the Anishinaabe medicine wheel, and it might be different in different regions. So just making sure that you know the and are aware of the medicine wheel and how it's honored by the people of the land that you reside on. But yeah, it's acknowledging all those, because the medicine wheel encompasses so much, right? It's not just a wheel with 4 different colors. It represents 4 different parts of self, the seasons, and our community as well. So you can incorporate the medicine wheel into your classroom without necessarily naming it, by just making sure you're honoring the cycles within your classroom.
Thank you. That's very helpful to think about. Lorna, question for you. Again, we're following down that drum wellness part, but folks, somebody's asking about, would it be okay to play a video of people playing a drum if you don't have your own drum? Or can you think of are there ways that folks can incorporate that without perhaps doing it themselves? What would be your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, there are local, like, okay, I'm on Sequat. Many of our local drum songs are on YouTube or posted and can be heard that way. Like, I'm thinking like an assembly. If you had an assembly and you didn't have someone to drum the welcome song, but you still wanted to honor the local territory, then that's a lovely way to do that. The one year, I mean, this isn't like a video really, but one year we had the students learn, like the entire outdoor school learn the welcome song. And then they had like a non-denominational Christmas outdoor concert. And you could hear the drumming throughout the trees and throughout like it was mostly non-Indigenous young people, but like what a powerful moment. And I think they filmed that, so that's probably recorded too. But yeah, so definitely there's time and place where a video or recording of the drumming could come in. But again, it's always an opportunity to build those relationships by reaching out to.
So helpful. And I'm just imagining that sound echoing through the forest. How beautiful. Sarah Ann, for you, there was a moment where you cut out when you were talking about tobacco, and somebody's asked what is sacred or special about the tobacco plant. And I remember actually talking to my dad about the sort of 4 sacred medicines as I was learning, and him not being a fan of tobacco, and he couldn't wrap his head around this concept that it meant something different. And once I explained, because I was talking about tobacco ties, and I wonder if you could just even touch on it. I'm not sure if that's your teaching to share or something for folks.
I'll touch on it. I remember the other part of the medicine wheel you can also share is the 4 elements in your classroom. You can incorporate 4 elements. That's another great way to incorporate the medicine wheel into your classroom. I just wanted to mention that. Yeah, sorry, my internet connection, I'm on a reserve, I took a float plane and a barge to get here, so not the best internet reception here, unfortunately. The tobacco. So without speaking too in depth, because some of our teachings I think are held sacredly in our communities, and I want to honor it's a little joke we have in my community. We call them tobacco questions. So questions that you have to offer an elder tobacco in order to receive the full answer. So tobacco, I don't know where I cut out, but tobacco is a way that we connect with the land. It's a way for us to show gratitude. And I was taught that it's an extension of our heart. So it's a way for us to speak to the land. It's a way for us to pray and for our ancestors and creator to receive our messages. It's a way to show respect and reciprocity with the land. So when we offer tobacco to the land, or as an Indigenous person, when I pick medicines, we offer tobacco as a way to ask permission from the plants in order to take them. It's a way for us, it's honestly an opportunity to listen to the land and how it responds to you. In the Anishinaabe medicine wheel, it represents a spiritual quadrant of the medicine wheel. So it's a very, it's our spirit. It's a way to connect to the spirit of the plants, of the land, of yourself, of the spirit world. So I think that's generally how we can cover it without it being a tobacco question.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I'm just going to let folks know and just stick around right to the end because we're going to do a tiny little giveaway at the end. But I'm just going to ask you one question more each, and it's a personal one. That is just like as we lead up and we have a week to reflect before we come to September 30th and the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, which again, I recognize, and you mentioned, Sarah Ann, that there's a lot of taking, right? There's a lot being asked of Indigenous people in these spaces when those are the days for those of us who are not Indigenous to act and to take steps. But I'm wondering if, in the lead up, if there is something that you each might recommend or that is front of mind for you that you want to share with these 600 odd people, many of whom are coming to this space maybe with new to working with Indigenous knowledge or wanting to uplift it. And Lorna, maybe I'll come to you first if there's any closing thoughts.
Yeah, and I think already being here is showing that that our participants here are wanting to take a step towards understanding and gaining more knowledge. And I always think like that's such an easy starting point is just um understanding Indigenous culture more through all the great ways that we engage in the world, through film, through books, through following Indigenous TikTok people, through just all those different ways, through music, like all the ways that we can understand a culture is a way to respect the culture, like we respect what we understand. So just immersing yourself, maybe choose one book or one film this week, something, or follow someone on TikTok who is on Indigenous TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, whatever your platform is. But yeah, just take those moments of things that you're already doing, but just add to it. That would be my suggestion.
That's magical. Thank you so much. And Sarah Ann, your closing thoughts?
So for me, when I think about truth and reconciliation, I feel that truth is our role. Our role as Indigenous people is to share our truth. And as settlers, your role is to reconcile with that truth. And like I mentioned before in my little talk, is it's uncomfortable. Reconciliation, if you move away from the discomfort, that's actually defeating the purpose. Is to sit in the discomfort and mull it over and really sit with it. And it's also, for me, I think a lot of people are taking steps to educate themselves. And I think for us to truly move towards reconciliation, we need to start to move towards action. So as educators, yes, educating yourself on our cultures, but also speaking out if you see harm being done to an Indigenous child. If you see something happening in the world that is harmful to an Indigenous person or to the land, speak up and use your voice. Use the privilege that you have here on this stolen land to speak up for us, so that it's not always us having to speak about our issues and our our causes. Support Indigenous businesses in your area. Spend money on Indigenous artists. Pay Indigenous people to come into your classroom. Well, I'm sure as teachers, it's not up to you for that, but it's about uplifting Indigenous people too. Learning about our culture and our history is really important, but now I think we're at the step where we need to take it into action. How are we taking what we've learned and putting it into action so that we also are showing the next generation how to move, how to be in reciprocal relationships with one another instead of divided away from one another. So for me, that is what I ask. You can also, if you have the means, to donate to the let me see, I'm trying to think, the IRRSS, does someone know what I'm talking about? The Indigenous, I have
Residential school survivors.
Yeah, sorry, end of day here for me. Residential school survivors, maybe you could link that.
Society. Yeah, we can link to that for sure.
That would
Or
be a great
Orange,
way.
you could Google Orange Shirt Day Society. That's another opportunity.
Yeah, so that I think for me is the best way to move forward. And for myself as an Indigenous mother, every single day that I get to raise my own child is an honor to me. And to remember that when you have Indigenous children in your classroom, that we are one of the first generations of parents to be able to raise our own children. So honoring our cultures and letting our children honor their cultures in your classroom as well.
Absolutely important. Thank you so much. I would like to thank both of you again, Lorna and Sarah, for sharing with us. I don't know if you could see how many hearts were waterfalling, reverse waterfalling up the screen, and how many messages of gratitude came through in the chat there. But really excellent speakers. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing. And we really appreciate your time and energy this evening. And again, we've linked all those books. And in your follow-up email, you'll get a link to your certificate of attendance. You'll get a link to all of these beautiful resources that these incredible women have created for you, and the other bits and pieces that we've shared from chat. Please feel free, Sarah Ann and Lorna, to go about your day. I know you're both incredibly busy and doing great work. For those of you who are here, please stick around. We're just going to do a real quick prize giving. So thank you, goodbye. Miigwech, Cook's Jam. Okay, here we go. So here's what happens. You've got to be in it to win it. So I am going to randomly select from the folks who are still live here the opportunity. Number 1 and 2 prizes are $25 gift cards to the Outdoor Learning Store. So opportunities to get one or either of those resources here. So our first winner is Maya Bautista. So Maya Bautista, Maya Bautista. Sorry, I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly. I'm doing my best off first go. You have won a $25 gift card to the store. I'm scrolling down, and our next winner is Rajwinder Kaur. So Rajwinder, Kaur, Kaur, Rajwinder. You are our second winner. Fantastic. Well done. Thank you for being here. Okay, our third winner, which is a $25 gift card to the Take Me Outside store, where you can get these magnificent Canadian-made hats, t-shirts, toques, notebooks. You can even get the executive director's book, Take Me Outside. Fantastic. Is Zahida Arabi. So ZAHIDA ARABI. Zahida Arabi, you are our third winner of the day. And our fourth and final winner is Amy Yardley. AMYYARDLEY. Amy Yardley, you're our fourth and final winner. To each and every one of you for coming here, probably when you're back into school or back into life, you've got things on the go. We appreciate you. You are important. We hope you'll join us this time next week, or an hour ago when we actually began, for our Indigenous Director of Indigenous Learning, Jenna Jasic, who's really going to talk to you on the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation about what you can do in that space and going forward with your year. It's going to be a very powerful learning space. We hope you'll join us there, and look out for that follow-up email. You can check your spam if you don't get it by lunchtime tomorrow. That's Pacific time, I should say. And the recording will be up on a resource page, and you'll get that too. For now, good night. Thank you so much for being here, and we wish you a wonderful turn and transition into fall. Thank you, Rachel, for all your work behind the scenes, and to our incredible speakers, Lorna and Sarah. Take care.